such a screech. You'll shake and shudder in surprise when you hear these zombies shriek. Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul and seal your doom tonight. Spooky, scary skeletons.
Fáilte Abhaile, my friends. Today we are going to talk about the Irish legends of vampires and how the story of Dracula likely came from the Emerald Isle. We will look at the two most popular legends, the Avataq and the Dearg Due. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If we can get 30 likes, it would be amazing. And as always, if you are new, subscribe so you'll never miss one of our videos. Now grab a cup of tea and relax as we delve into the legends of Irish vampires. Many people are under the impression that the modern vampire originated in Transylvania, but that is not quite accurate. One of the ancient vampire stories in Ireland is the Celtic legend of the undead Irish chieftain Avataq. The legend says that back in the 5th century, in the town of Slaghtaverty, Ireland, lived a brutal warlord known as the Avataq. In those days, the stories say, most lands were divided up into small areas ruled by petty kings, many of whom were hardly nice to people. The Avataq was believed to have dark, magical powers and was greatly feared by his people. He was said to have treated his people horribly. The townsfolk wanted to rid themselves of this troublesome king, so they hired another local king to deal with the problem. As far as coups go, it should have been simple enough. The king was murdered and buried straight, standing up, which was considered the right and honourable way to do things considering his stature. However, unfortunately for the town of Slaghtaverty, the horror was not over yet. The Avataq, in the legends, returned from the grave and demanded a blood tribute from his people to sustain his energy. This led the Avataq being slain and buried multiple times, each time rising again from the dead to seek the blood from the living. Eventually, the frustrated warlord tired of slaying this undead monster over and over again. He found some people learned in the ways of magic and asked them for a solution to his problem. They explained that the monster was essentially between worlds and could not be killed, but that he could be trapped under the earth if the proper steps were taken. The legend says that he had to be killed with a sword made specifically out of yew wood, which sounds reminiscent of a stake through the heart theory often seen in popular culture. However, it does depart somewhat from modern lore, in that to keep him in his burial site, he was also to be flipped upside down and covered with an enormous stone as well as thorns. And so the Avataq was caught beneath the earth, and this is where he lies to this day. But the story doesn't end there, for to the locals in the area, Avataq's grave is now known as Slaghtaverty Dolmen. It is a large rock and two smaller rocks underneath a hawthorn tree. Back in 1997, attempts were made to clear the land, but workmen who tried to cut down the hawthorn tree, arching across the Avataq's grave, allegedly had their chainsaw malfunction 3 times. While attempting to lift the great stone, a steel chain snapped, cutting the hand of one of the labourers and ominously allowing blood to soak into the ground. Our next legend of an ancient Irish vampire is the Derrick Jew, which translates to the Red Thirst. Arranged marriages have always been prevalent in Irish culture, particularly to increase power and wealth between families. The story of the Dearg Due is no exception. A girl in Waterford with exceptional beauty was born into such a family. As fate had it, she was humble and content and sought love in the arms of a local farmhand. They made plans to wed and have a family of their own. Her cruel father, however, was fueled by avarice and prosperity, regardless of the cost of his own kin. He gave his daughter to a notorious, vicious and nasty clan chief in exchange for land and riches. With the marriage set and the young woman condemned to a life of cruelty, the wedding day she had dreamed of had become a horrific nightmare. On the day of the wedding, the reluctant bride was a vision of blinding beauty, dressed in red and gold. As all the guests revelled long into the night, the girl sat alone, angry and bitter, damning her father to hell and vowing to seek revenge on those who had cost her love and life. The chieftain turned out to be far more abusive and controlling than his new wife could have ever imagined. To him, the poor girl was nothing but a trophy to be locked away for his pleasure only, savouring in the knowledge she was his and his alone. With a complete absence of hope and only darkness ahead, she simply existed. No longer eating or drinking, her life was gone long before her body gave in. Her burial was poorly attended and without ceremony. Her wicked husband had taken another wife before she was even cold, and her family were too engrossed in their wealth and greed to give her a second thought. Only one man grieved for the tragic young woman, her lost love. He visited her grave every single day, telling her of his undying love and praying for her return. Unfortunately, his love was not the driving force for her resurrection. Revenge was the force that pulled her from her grave on the first anniversary of her death. Consumed with hatred and the need for retribution, she burst from her coffin and headed home. As her father lay sleeping, she touched her lips to his and sucked the worthless, selfish life straight out of him. Her revenge had not yet started, though. She called upon her callous husband, finding him surrounded by women, fulfilling his lustful desires, oblivious to the dead bride in the room. In a furious rage, she launched on the chieftain, sending the women screaming. His former wife was so full of fury and fire that she not only drew every breath, but drained every ounce of blood from his twisted and cruel body. The scarlet liquid surging through her, leaving her more alive than she had ever been, and she had a hunger for blood that could not be sated. The corpse bride used her beauty to prey on young men, luring them to their demise with seduction and the promise of her body as their reward. Instead, she sank her teeth into their exposed necks and drank their blood to quench her thirst and desire, but it was never enough. The warm elixir gave her strength and immortality, and drove her to the next quarry. That is, until terrified locals restrained her and buried her in a mystical place known as Strongbow's Tree. The femme fatale's lustful yearning could only be satisfied on the day she died. So on the eve of her anniversary, locals would gather and place stones upon her grave so that she would not rise and fulfill her bloodlust. Sometimes, though, the rocks are dislodged, forgotten, or her insatiable desire is stronger than any boulder could ever be. That is when she can walk into the night. Ill-fated men falling victim to the beauty and bloodthirstiness of the Dearg Jew. There is much speculation that Bram Stoker heard these legends while studying in Ireland, and that it likely was much of the inspiration for his story of Dracula. While it is hard to say for certain where all of Bram Stoker's ideas originated from, these legends were fairly popular in Ireland at the time, so it seems like a safe bet that his Irish friends would have told him about these legends. Others point out that while Transylvania is usually given as the origin of the Dracula legend, Stoker himself had never been to that part of the world. The only place in which he had lived around actual vampire legends was the Emerald Isle, where the original vampires came out of the primordial dark to feed upon the flesh of the living. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked our video, please hit the like button and subscribe to their channel for more videos on the strange and eerie goings on in this world. Until next time, good night and good luck.